Trenton 365 with Jacque Howard. Profiling the businesses, organizations, and people that make Trenton better.
Hello, friend, and welcome to the Trenton 365 Show. I'm your host, Jacque Howard. You can follow us on Facebook, Trenton 365 Show, on Twitter at Trenton 365, and the website, Trenton365.com. In the studio with me, let me back up. WIMG 1300 on the AM dial is where you are listening. And if you're watching, it's over WPHY Channel 25 covering Mercer County, New Jersey. Now, to my guest, and most of you who follow the program know that I bring a lot of artists onto the Trenton 365 show, providing some exposure, especially the artists who I'm extremely excited about. One of them I have in the studio with me. I have a young man by the name of Philip McConell. And I met Philip a little over a year ago at one of our local watering holes. And I noticed that he had on a sweatshirt that I thought was quite interesting, similar to the one that he's rocking tonight. Later, we started a conversation. I found out that he indeed is the creator of the artwork. And I learned a new term regarding art, and he's going to be talking about that tonight. In the studio with me is Philip McConell, young man, artist, photographer. Philip, thank you so much for a couple minutes of your time.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. So, Philip, before we get into the details of your art and what brought you to becoming a glitch artist, let's talk a little bit about your background, where you're from, etc.
Okay. I am from Hamilton, Trenton area. Grew up in Trenton with my mom and, my mom and dad, but her mother had a house on East State Street that's pretty much where I spent majority of my time. And then I went to Hamilton High West, graduated, went down south for college. And then I graduated last May with a Bachelor's of Fine Arts, and my major was mass communications with a concentration in photography.
Mm-hmm. Now, a degree in mass communications for the general public, what does that actually mean?
Basically, it's anything that deals with mass media. So it could be anything ranging from media law and ethics to advertising, public relations, photography, or pretty much just, radio broadcasting and script writing and news outlets. So anything that you see on TV is some form of has ties with some form of mass communication.
Okay. And is that something that you always wanted to get involved in? You always wanted to go to school for, or was that something that you were introduced to in high school?
Well, actually, I found my love for photography when I went down south initially. When I went down there, I didn't have any real plan. I just knew that college was the next step after high school. I was going to do the military, but I ended up hurting my shoulder my senior year of high school wrestling. I pinched a nerve in my back, so I couldn't do the military life. So I ended up just going to school down south, and I kind of found my passion for photography down there. And then there wasn't just a set path for photography, so you had to take all the mass communication courses. So I'm pretty well versed in anything dealing with mass communications because we had to take everything for about 2 or 3 years. So, but yeah, now I'm a glitch artist.
All right. And we're going to get into the talk about glitch artists because that's a new term for me. What school did you graduate from in South Carolina?
Morris College in Sumter, South Carolina. It's a little small city, but the city has a lot of love for the school. It's like the pride of the school. And actually my school had one of the longest, it's an HBCU, and it had the longest reigning president of HBCUs. So Dr. Luncey Richardson was the school president at the time. He recently retired, I believe. I don't know, I'm not too tuned in down there anymore, but that's from what I hear.
Okay. So I'd like to talk a bit more about South Carolina and the experience that you had there. Oftentimes when people travel, when people are born and raised in the northern part of the country or the East Coast, for example, then they travel south, sometimes they realize that it's almost a culture shock, I guess, is a term that I want to use, but it's not saying it's good or bad, it's just different exposure.
vastly different from what I'm used to up north. Everything up north is fast-paced. It moves and moves and moves, and it just, especially cities like New York and even some places in Philly, they just don't stop. They're open 24/7. But down south, a lot of places close at like 7 o'clock before the streetlights come on. And it's just different. Like, it doesn't snow down there. I mean, it snows, but if they get 2 inches of snow, they close everything. This is one time I was in school, and it was right before Thanksgiving break. It snowed maybe 1.5 inches. Now, all the kids from up north, we formed a very tight-knit group because it was just us down there, New York, Jersey, Philly. We hung out with each other. That was our friend group. And we're like, oh, well, we still got class the next day because it's not a lot of snow outside. It was so bad that they closed the McDonald's. McDonald's closes for nothing. But 2 inches of snow, a little bit of ice, shut down for like 3 days. So it's just an entirely different experience. An experience that I'm glad I was able to partake in because both my parents are originally from the South and then they moved up north. So just being able to see the lifestyle that, well, not see verbatim the lifestyle they would have had, but just experience some of it. It's just, I'm glad I was able to get that insight.
Mm-hmm. Now, in addition to going to school in South Carolina and the culture shock just from being East Coast North to being in the South a bit, going to a historically black college or university, that in itself is also a little different for a lot of folks on the East Coast, especially people who are not people of color, who aren't of African descent. Mm-hmm. They may look at that and say, okay, well, what is a historical black university or college? They may know what the term means, but can you put in some relative terms for a larger audience?
Well, basically, HBCUs were set up at a time when African American students weren't being allowed into white institutions, so we created our own safe space for education. And the HBCU they're not as many as there were before, just because when I was in school, there was an ongoing debate between should we still have them or should we completely integrate, or like should we keep this safe space for just us, or should we allow X, Y, and Z into this institution. So, and then being from up north, I'm used to it because I went to Hamilton High West for school, and it was a mixed bag of culture, everybody from every ethnicity. And then you get down here and it's just African Americans, it's just my brothers and sisters, it's just us. And it's different with dealing with just us because we have the same experiences growing up. We laugh at the same jokes. We have the same just like little niches that only exist in black culture. Mm-hmm. It's a shared experience between an entire campus full of people. I didn't have that up here. And then going down there, that's all I had. It's like it was just one family. Mm-hmm. And then I lived on campus. So these people, they were like my brothers.
Literally.
Yeah, literally.
Okay. So from your perspective, graduating from a HBCU, have the stigma that used to be affiliated with that many years ago, probably before I, finished up college, how do you see that now since you've graduated just recently?
When you say the stigma, you mean just the negative aspects of it?
Correct.
Well, I will say that one thing I did experience, I was able to see, I'm not a Greek, but I was able to see HBCU Greek life. And these fraternities and sororities, I watched them do great things for the community. I watched them go out into the community and help it because the city, Sumter, it's not impoverished, but it's not, it kind of reminds me of Trenton in a way. Like I felt like I was kind of home. But I watched them go out into the community and I watched them work with the community. I watched them do after-school programs. Some of the people that were in these fraternities, they went on to be teachers. So in the same hand, they went from this college life, which is not the stereotype that you see with the drinking and the partying and stuff. Like you have some people there that are full-time students. That's all they do. They go to class, go to work, do their work, go to sleep, wake up, repeat next day. Because we live on campus and there's not much to do out there, so the full-time life. But people they tend to take care of each other when put in situations like that. And I feel like that getting the HBCU experience and seeing the college Greeks do that for the community was an experience that I'll never forget.
That's fantastic. And I'm glad you put it that way, because it provides me a window to exactly who you are as a person. And going back from the time that you and I connected and we met in public and we started to talk, you know, when you meet people for a living and you sit down with them and you talk to them, especially over a meal or something like that, you really get to know a person. And sometimes you can separate where people are in their mentality rather quickly. And you were one of those people who I said, absolutely, I've got to sit down and chat with this young man because there's something else there. I mean, there's this like really powerful energy that I'm looking forward to getting to know more, and absolutely looking forward to sharing it with my networks and with my audience. So your experience at going to an HBCU was very positive. It's something that you would encourage or recommend?
Of course, 100%. Because you don't get that type, like just being around one specific culture is different than the mixed bag that you have up here. And especially down south life in general, which is completely different. And then you throw in that it's just us down there. That's just, it's an experience that I wouldn't trade for anything. And I'm glad I got to experience it.
All right, well, fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. So as we make a transition and we're going to build up to talk about the glitch art that you do, I'd like for you to talk a bit more about your education, about photography and how you got into photography and what photography means to you.
Well, I've always looked at the world a little different because of the way my father raised me and my two sisters. We were, how do I word it? We were raised on the principle of intelligence first, always thinking forward, always thinking 2 steps ahead. Like, my father had me playing chess at a very young age. He had my sister when she was about 5 years old reading the New York Times just for practice. And my other sister, she's a wizard in the kitchen. Like, her culinary skills are phenomenal. It's just, we were raised on the principle of intelligence first and always thinking 2 steps ahead. And I apply that same logic into my photography. I'm always looking at a picture in layers. I'm always looking at it, well, it looks like this, but what else could it be? Yes, the sky is blue right now, but what about that layer of clouds that's directly over the blue? And then what about the sunset, which has the mixed hues coming down? I look at the world in layers now, just from photography and working with digital art and things like that. It's just a different way to look at the world. There are, from a psychological standpoint, there are about 9 different types of intelligence. And just being able to look at everything through a photography lens is one of those. So.
Now, you opened up a can of worms, sort of, for me, by describing your photography like that.
Yes.
Has photography changed your perception on life, or have you taken your life and applied it to photography, and now it's a piece of something that you've created?
Photography showed me a different way of looking at things. But I would say that these philosophies, these ideologies that I've always had them. They've been instilled in me from a young age to just be a forward thinker. So even looking at photography like that was something that I already had. It was sleep. It had to be woken up. And now it's to the point to where I'm able to look at anything, dissect it, break it down to its simplest form, and then hit point A, point B, point C, point D. Or, if need be, I can go from point A to point D, and then back to C, and then back to B, and then back to E, if need be.
Now, I haven't asked you this or didn't even think about this, but are you also a musician?
No. I do write music, but I can't sing to save my life. It is my girlfriend laughs at me all the time because I love to sing, but I just can't. It's not one of the gifts that I have. I am a writer. I write short stories, poetry. I do spoken word. I am a performing artist. I do hip-hop dance, and I write short films. I also am a director of sorts. My main goal is to be a director of photography, but I'm a director of sorts. I do know my way around an editing room and things like that. I know how to produce, but yeah, I do everything but sing. And that's the one thing I wish I had, but it's just not in me. But my girlfriend, she's an amazing singer. She serenades me all the time.
Uh-huh. Well, I have to say that I'm in that camp too. I love singing, but I don't sing well at all. I think that saying couldn't carry a note if it had handles was meant for me.
I'm right along with you.
All right. So back to the idea of the photography. When did you first start taking pictures and knew that this was something that you wanted to explore?
Just in college. My main goal was to just capture moments because I have ADHD. So my mind moves very, very fast from moment to moment to moment. Things get lost. So I wanted to set up a system. Well, I have a current system that I use to just live in each moment, to be as present as possible. But with photography, that allows me to capture a moment and then move past it. And then later on to look at the pictures the next day and say, oh, that was fun. I remember doing that. Don't remember that, but I'm glad I caught it. It just enables me to just look at my life in screenshots.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you mentioned that. I didn't know that you had ADHD.
Yeah.
But more and more artists who I speak to, they have some diagnosis of ADHD, and they found that the art that they do, whether it's music or other performing arts or photography, painting, etc., this helps to bring them into some sort of a semblance of an area where the average person can understand what they're doing with their ADHD. So have you considered how your art and your ADHD, how they've come together and where that's going?
Well, I feel like with the ADHD, it allows me to do multiple things at a time. Because like I said, I do all these other things, but I'm also running a company with my sister, which basically has all of that involved. The name of the company is OM7 Creative Group. And the goal of it is basically just to create a platform for artists. Because like when I started out, like not even a year ago, I had my first show in February. And the only reason I got that show was because Artworks saw something in me that I didn't even know. I didn't even realize my stuff was that far left. I didn't realize it was that different. I just thought it was just graphic design. And then they saw me, they extended the hand, and they gave me my first show. But I wanted to try and extend that hand to other artists. So, in comes, it's pronounced Omni, but it's written as OM7. The reason it's written as OM7 is because I wanted to replace the I with the 7. 7 is a God number. 7 is a number of completion. And I wanted to remove the ego from the work. Because oftentimes with artists, they get caught up in self. And getting caught up in self, you don't create from a pure place. You create from, I want this, I need this is what I want. No, it's not about that. It's about advancing the culture. There's still certain places where you can't make certain art or they will kill you. Art is about advancement. Art is about sending a message. And I just want to be able to create from a pure place.
Mm-hmm. And I like how you tied that in with 7. And when I say numerology, I don't want people to misquote that or have that number be misrepresented. Yes. 7 is the number of what it is, and it's got meaning behind it throughout history. Yes. So integrating the number 7 into Omni, taking the I out, also says a lot about the place from where you're coming from. Yes. And for those who don't understand that, I suggest a simple numerological search under 7 for you to find out exactly what that all means. The two words that you mentioned that are sticking out to me, dissection and advancement.
Yes.
So when I hear that, I think, okay, I have something that's whole, but I want to make it better.
Yes.
And to make it better, I'm going to remove some things, which some people may say that you're changing the creation, but at the same time you're recreating something. A quick example is the computer. Yeah. At one point in time, computers were the size of rooms and floors of office buildings, etc. But now they're as small as multifunctional as the mobile device that we have here as well. Talk about dissection and advancement in your art. Kind of merge them together for me.
Well, what glitch art is, it's essentially a form of digital alchemy where I take something and create something else out of it by breaking it down and then rebuilding it. Just basic alchemic principles. But I like to take the small bits of things and then create other stuff. When I was a child, I was very destructive, very hyperactive. And I hit a certain point in my teen years where I got tired of being destructive. I just wanted to create. That's when I started doing poetry. That's when I started dancing. And destruction and creation come from this, for me anyway. I can't speak for the general populace, but destruction and creation come from the same place for me. They are like two sides of a coin, essentially. I love to create. Creating is something there's no feeling like creating something. There's no feeling like taking something and making something else out of it. And then showing somebody and they're like, how did you get that from that? And then explaining the process. So basically what glitch art is manipulating the code of a picture. When you put a picture on a computer, it turns into a JPEG, and then you can open it in a hex editor or a text editor, and then it turns into literal lines of code. From there, I can move stuff around, delete stuff, add stuff, do what I want with it. Granted, it's a very painstaking process. Sometimes it takes me days to make a piece, sometimes it takes me hours. It just varies on where I'm at with it. But just seeing the final result of it is satisfying enough for me. If I could, I would do it for free. But capitalism is a thing, and I have to abide by its rules, so I have to make money. Mm-hmm. Granted, I would love to just create all day and just give it out to people. Mm-hmm. I like creating.
Mm-hmm. And the creation of your shirt, your sweatshirt that you're wearing, can you just describe that for the viewing audience?
Well, what this is a collaborative piece between me and a photographer known as, his name is Jacque. He does landscape photography. Artworks paired us together. And the series is called Return to Nature, which is a juxtaposition series basically taking architecture shots with nature shots and just showing the relative size of everything. This is, the piece that I'm wearing on my shirt is 3 of 6. And the second piece, which is of the New York City skyline, it has the New World Trade Center paired with the world's tallest tree, Hyperion. And with that, I wanted to compare the relative size of the tree to the building, just to show as above, so below. Everything is intertwined. Even though this was something that nature created and this is something that man created, they're still relative towards each other. Even though we like to distance ourselves from nature as much as possible, it's still one and the same regardless.
Mm-hmm. And at this time, for the folks who are watching on television via WPHY, I'm going to hold up a piece that I've purchased, and I encourage other people to purchase art, original art, buy small, shop local, any of those things, those terms you want to use. Here's an example of what you can do. So, Philip, for the folks who are just listening, can you describe this sweatshirt and what it is, the design on it, and something about the glitch art of that?
Well, it's just Sade. Sade is, well, she's legendary, essentially. I was not raised listening to Sade, but later in my adult years, I find that I like that type of music more. Just, it's not lounge music, but it creates an atmosphere, it creates an ambiance, and I wanted the piece to resemble that. That's why you see the wood grain in the background. That's why you see the multiple facets of her. And I just wanted to make something that reflected the way her music sounded to me. Oftentimes when I do work of artists, I'm listening to their music to try and capture what I'm listening to in a moment. I'm trying to create moments.
Mm-hmm. And I like how you put that, referencing the artists, listening to them while you're creating. I believe that at one point in time, when we used to listen to albums, and we would listen to the whole album all the way through, there was the whole idea and the concept of what the artist was trying to convey through listening to the whole album, whether it was at that time an hour or hour and 15 minutes or whatever it was. And seeing and hearing you do that with the artist, I think that they would be really encouraged to know that the creation that they put together is being used to create other pieces of art.
Yeah, hopefully one day one of my pieces reaches them and they see it and they like it, and but till then I'm just working out of the gallery.
Great. So let's go back a step and talk about glitch art. And again, this is a new term to me, and I'm someone who considers myself pretty much involved in the art community as a whole, specifically here in Mercer County, New Jersey, and in Trenton for sure. But what is glitch art? And talk about the history of it a little bit, please.
Well, glitch art has existed since 1962. It's not a term that I created, contrary to popular belief, as I would like to take credit for it. No, it's not something that I made up. It's already an underground trend. But what I'm doing with it is different from any glitch artist you'll ever see, I promise. But glitch art has existed since 1962. And then it was done by manipulating VCR wires to get effects. So what they would do is they put in the VCR tape, manipulate the wires to get like the staticky effect, and then they would record it on another tape and then keep recording, keep that process going back and forth until you had a whole distorted video. VHS distortion, which is pretty much where glitch art got its roots from. Now it's done with text editors, hex editors. It's done with vaporwave. It's even done using there's a music program called Audacity. Probably not saying that right, but it's a music program where you can put a picture in it. There's a way to upload the picture into the program, and then from there you can manipulate the sound of it. It turns into sound waves, and then you manipulate it, and then you save it and you get an end result. I don't use that way. I'm not a fan of it, but there are multiple ways that you can do this art form. And right now it's not something that's well known. A lot of people aren't well versed. It's not the first time I've heard someone say, like, I have no idea what this is. So it's just something it's not new, but what I'm doing with it, it is.
Now, I'd like to go back before we get into more details about glitch art and specifically your glitch art. But you talked about text editors, hex editors, etc. Can you just give an overall summary for the average person what they are?
Basically, text editor is something. It's a simple program that can run on any computer, and you use it to just create text files. Just simple text files. That's all it's used for, but you can use it for other things like putting messages in pictures or doing what I do with it. A hex editor does the same thing, but it's more binary. It shows you the ones and zeros of it, whereas a text editor operates in text, hex editor operates in binary. Now, you can also do the same thing with music programs, certain music programs. So these programs they're all simple. They're not like anything basic, but what I'm doing with it is very complex.
Okay, that's awesome. So in the second half of the program, we're going to get into the details about your specific glitch art, and I'm going to encourage folks to check you out. Share your contact information before we go for break.
Okay, you can find me at my website, omn7.com. It's omn7.com. Or you can follow me on Instagram, which is me_KON_LEL.
Excellent. Philip McConell, Glitch Artist, will be back shortly after break. Folks, you're listening and watching the Trenton 365 show, and I'm your host, Jacque Howard.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
Call now, 800-974-3927. 800-974-3927. That's 800-974-3927.
Are you nearing eligibility for Medicare benefits? Then you know now is an important time in your life. Medicare can be a complicated puzzle. The wrong choice can cost you money, and you may be locked into the plan until the annual enrollment period. And the right choice may save you money and maximize your Medicare benefits all year long. Let the Health Markets Insurance Agency help you. With one free phone call, a licensed insurance agent will help you find a Medicare plan that's right for your medical needs and budget. Call now to learn more. 800-576-4262. 800-576-4262. If you're now eligible for Medicare, call today to discuss your options. 800-576-4262. 800-576-4262. Health Markets Insurance Agency is a DBA or assumed name of InSphere Insurance Solutions Incorporated, which is an authorized insurance agency in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. Not all agents are licensed to sell all products. Service and product availability varies by state.
Iraq, Afghanistan. For our troops, the war on terror means multiple deployments and grievous losses. 400,000 diagnosed with PTSD. How can you give hope to these heroes, the troops who fight for your freedom? Through militarybiblestick.com and a digital player that's preloaded with the audio New Testament.
Thank you for providing the Bible in this format. It was just the tool I needed to continue my walk with God.
I'm in Afghanistan. It gets so lonely here. I need God's word to see me through this.
I count your gift as one of God's blessings. It's allowed me to really understand the path He's put me on.
Our heroes need to know they're not forgotten and that you honor their sacrifice. $25 provides the Military Bible Stick for one troop in our armed forces. $25 can bring God's peace on the battlefield. Visit militarybiblestick.com